theoretically, in terms of arguments for permissibility, so I'm not saying what's ideal and what we should do tomorrow, or any of that, but if we're just talking about, permissibility, and we're talking about, theoretically in political philosophy, and me as a pastor, blending some of that with my theological convictions, then there's nothing wrong. There's nothing inherently immoral about a nation actually preferring, in our case, because America is unique, it wouldn't necessarily be white people in an exclusive sense. But if a nation prioritizes one faith, for instance, like I would advocate as a Christian nationalist, I would say, I'm happy to wear the moniker. I totally understand why some people don't. And I would be a part of the larger conversation on the team of, new dissident right, or the new Christian right, or, whatever you want to call it, that very much for that team and on that team. But I also like, the moniker Christian nationalism. And so for me, as a proud Christian nationalist, I would say, yeah, in terms of permissibility, there would be nothing wrong with America, which is a Christian nation. I would argue we're currently in apostasy, but in terms of its founding, its origin, all those kinds of things, there's nothing wrong with a Christian nation prioritizing in terms of faith, religion, saying, we're going to be, because America it is also unique in the sense of its tolerance of those who have different views. And so I would like for America to still be America, where it's not Sharia law, and that's not even compatible with Christian theological convictions, but also not America and its culture and its founding and the people that we are. So America will probably, if I was king for a day, America would always have, I think, some added measure of patience and tolerance and compassion in a way that many other parts of the world don't have when it comes to different religions. But blasphemy would not be tolerated in the public square. You wouldn't have, the police rounding up, people who are, Muslims or a different faith in their private homes. But in the public square, there wouldn't be blasphemy. There'd be things like that. I'm okay with blue laws, again, in terms of permissibility and conviction, those kinds of things. But there would be an exalting. So it's not necessarily putting everyone else out, but the esteeming of the Christian faith, right? Your holidays, national parades or ceremonies, they would be distinctly Christian, right? When you swear into office, it's the Christian Bible, the Quran, you can privately read it in your home, but that doesn't work in a court of law. It needs to be the Bible, the Word of God, the triune God. So there's nothing wrong in terms of permissibility on the theological side of actually preferring the Christian faith, the faith of that particular nation. On the social side, there seems to me, in terms of arguments of permissibility, I'm not saying we have to do it tomorrow or that we'll even ever do it, but it doesn't seem as though there's anything inherently immoral about preferring also a particular people. In our case with America being unique, it wasn't all white. It was predominantly white, but it wasn't all white. But I would just say heritage Americans, to say, yeah, we're going. And so what does that mean? It means that America would prefer those who can track their ancestry to this piece of land, this country. Their fathers fought in our wars, and they can do so more than just 15 minutes ago. They didn't just arrive on an H-1B visa to take your job at the software company yesterday. But instead, there's actually an esteeming and a preference given to Christian faith over other faiths and American heritage people over other people. And that doesn't mean that we have to be rude or anything like that. But it does mean that there's actually something to be said for, this is my place, these are my people, these are my traditions, this is my religion, this is my country. And I think about that, and the more I think about it, because people will say, well, if you want those good jobs, then you gotta compete, you gotta be better. And I think I would disagree on two levels. One, I would say, I don't think that Americans are fundamentally lazy, because they watch too much, Boy Meets World. I think I take great offense at that, actually. I think that the rest of the world, wherever we see innovation, it's usually copying the innovation that happened in America. Americans are the most innovative, the most ingenuity, Americans have done incredible things. So one, I disagree with that sentiment that we've got it, all the geniuses, the next Tesla is going to be found in India, and not America. Statistically, I don't think that's true. And then secondly, I also think, but wait a second, it's your country. And if America first means America as a sports team beats, in the global Olympics of widget factories, if that's what it means to be America first, then I would just say, then I'm perfectly content with America coming in second place or third place or 50th place if the price to be paid for America first is that America as a jersey, as a sports jersey, wins the Super Bowl of widget making, but American people are unemployed and devastated. I feel like the leaders of a country, their first priority has to be to their people above their country, making trades with other teams, with India or whatever, just to make sure that they win the Super Bowl of who can colonize Mars the fastest. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's this guy, Samuel Huntington, and he's famous for his Clash of Civilizations thesis, but he was a professor at Harvard. He's a center-left guy, actually, but he wrote this great book called Who Are We? And really, Huntington was looking after the Cold War and said, hey, we had this weird moment where the entire world was basically set in this bifurcated scenario. You were either communist or you were a capitalist, you were either United States or Soviet Union. And that kind of superseded the normal national identity. And now that that is gone, now that we have seen the end of the Cold War, we're going to start moving back towards traditional forms of identity. And that's going to become more and more important. Every nation is going to be defined by its more classic features and no longer by kind of this rough ideology of capitalism versus communism. And he said, we in the United States need to grapple with this question, who are we? If we are going to return to a more traditional understanding of peoplehood, of nationhood, then we can't keep this idea of just being an abstract principle. We have to be grounded in what nations have been grounded in for pretty much all of history. And again, this guy is a center-left guy. He's not some right-wing bomb thrower, but in the book, he basically comes to the conclusion that America is an Anglo-Protestant nation, that everything about it, all of these principles that we love to talk about, aren't just some abstract Gnostic thing floating around. It's grounded in a particular people, a particular religion, a particular tradition and heritage and understanding. And of course, being a man of the left, he was not looking for any kind of hardline identity of Anglo-Protestantism. He said people can join, people must join, they must assimilate, but that is key. They must assimilate. They have to become part of that process. We can't just leave identity off the table. Identity will continue to exist. If you just leave it to the left, then guess what happens? They define it. The same thing that happened when we tried to push religion out. Oh, we're going to be a neutral country when it comes to religion. Well, guess what we ended up with? Wokeness as the new religion, because the left dominated all of those quote unquote neutral spaces. The same thing is going to be true of identity. If you just abandon it as the right, then guess who's going to control what the American identity is? It's going to be the left. And I think having an Anglo-Protestant core identity is critical. Again, we are a nation that has always allowed people to join in that, but we must make it the priority. It has to be something that binds us together. And by the way, preferring a particular people is actually great for you. It's not just morally permissible, spiritually permissible. It's actually achieves a lot of the goals that conservatives and libertarians want to achieve. Because when you have a multicultural society, you have conflicting worldviews, you have conflicting moral visions. And guess who can be the only person who can arbitrate that conflict in every level, from the personal to the political to the business interaction? It's the government. Yes, the state has to get involved. So when you prefer a specific way of doing things, everyone shares the same culture, the same religion, at least superficially, at least as part of the culture, then the state doesn't have to involve itself in every interaction, because there is a baseline shared moral vision, tradition, understanding, heritage that everyone can be a part of. But when you create a multicultural society, you necessarily grow the government, because it's the only one that can dictate what's going to happen when all these other moral visions are clashing.
All right, the clock is running out. You need to go and register now for our Christ is King, How to Defeat Trash World Conference. It's happening the year of our Lord 2025, April 3rd, 4th, and 5th. That's a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And by God's grace, we're able to provide for you an all-star lineup. We've got Steve Dace, Calvin Robinson, Orrin McIntyre, Dr. Stephen Wolfe, Eric Kahn, David Reese, Andrew Isker, John Harris, A.D. Robles, Dan Burkholder, Dusty Devers, Ben Garrett, CJ Engel, and yours truly, Pastor Joel Webben. Come on out, join us April 3rd, 4th, and 5th, 2025. Thursday through a Saturday. Go to rightresponseconference.com to register today. Again, that's rightresponseconference.com.